Now that you've heard about the New Deal from Mr. Sawatsky, Ms. Costello, and Mrs. Brown, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the critics of the New Deal and why a lot of people didn't necessarily like all of these programs that President Roosevelt was putting into place. A lot of people actually thought the New Deal might be in violation of the Constitution. The Constitution allows for certain things, but a lot of times there's a debate over whether the Constitution has to allow you to pass a law or whether the Constitution has to deny you the right to pass a law. What is the limit? And that's a debate that we've had in this country since the founding of the country and even still have today. And so there's debate over whether the Constitution has to allow you to pass a law or whether it's got to ban you from passing a law in order for it to be unconstitutional. So, does anybody know how we decide if a law is constitutional? I'll give you a second. Good, yes, the Supreme Court is how we decide if a law is constitutional. The Supreme Court is a group of 9 federal judges who determine whether or not the law is constitutional. Now, the Supreme Court, during the New Deal, actually began striking down some of Roosevelt's programs as being unconstitutional. Programs like the NIRA, AAA, which you guys have already learned about. So he came up with a plan. Roosevelt said, look, the Supreme Court is voting to strike down these laws 5-4. It's very close. There's 5 judges who don't like them, 4 judges who do. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add 6 more judges who like my laws. And then it'll be 10-5 and there will be no question my laws will always pass. So, if he got to approve his 6 judges, he got to pick the judges, then all of a sudden, they're going to be judges who pass his laws. So, a lot of people really started questioning this. Was this okay? Well, we'll never know. Before the plan could happen, a Supreme Court justice named Owen Roberts switched to Roosevelt's side on these votes. He stopped voting against him. All of a sudden, he's now agreeing with FDR's plans, and FDR has no reason to add 6 new judges. His laws are already passing. So, who else didn't like the New Deal? Well, there were a handful of people. First is Francis Townsend. He was a doctor from California who was going to create a retirement plan. He decided, this is his plan. At age 60, you have to retire. The government will then give you $200 a month. No matter what, you will receive $200 a month once you turn 60 years old. You have to spend all $200. Then the next month you'll get 200 more, spend it all. Next month 200 more, spend it all. Well, unfortunately for Dr. Townsend, this plan was too expensive. Giving every person $200 a month at the age of 60 was not going to work for the government. Father Coughlin was a Catholic priest in Detroit whose radio show was listened to by 30 to 45 million people a week. He was very popular. He called for heavy taxes on the rich and the government taking over the banking system. However, he began to lose support because he was attacking Jews, communists, as well as FDR and the New Deal. So people started to not listen to him as much. He fell out of favor, and his plan never happens. Huey Long was a senator from Louisiana. He was a great public speaker. He was very compelling. People loved to listen to him speak. He came up with the Share Our Wealth plan. Now, this plan is probably going to sound pretty good to you. Tax the rich, and every American will get $2,500, a house, and a free car. This is like The Price is Right, people. In 1935, however, Huey Long was assassinated. His plan never gets put into place. Again, in no small part because of how expensive it's going to be. Now, at this time, the New Deal is still being put into place, and we're starting to run into some more constitutional questions. FDR is about to run for his 3rd term as president. No one has ever done this before. George Washington stepped down after 2 terms, and that kind of set the standard for everyone else. You serve your 2 terms, you leave office. Well, FDR decided that he wanted to run for a third term. There was nothing that said he couldn't. And so he did. And he won his election in the third term. Then he ran again for a fourth term and was elected. As you'll find out, FDR will not get to complete his fourth term. However, this calls into question the constitutionality of such a thing. And after FDR's time in office, eventually there is a law passed saying that a president may only serve 2 terms. So, as you're preparing for class tomorrow, I want you to be thinking about at what point should we allow for the government to expand on its power? And at what point is it a governmental intrusion? What kind of circumstances do we need to allow a president to do more? That's the question I want you thinking about as you're coming into class tomorrow. And I will see you tomorrow.